Okay, so I just wanted to thank you guys for doing this with me today. And the purpose of this focus group is to identify what's working well in terms of professional development, and then kind of where we can be better, what we can improve on to make your professional development, impactful and effective and efficient. So first, I'm going to have you guys go around the table and introduce yourselves. Please let me know your content area, how many years you've been teaching, and then if you have any, or what your degree is in, and any specialized degrees.
So, Allie Nicholson. I am a social studies teacher. This is my 5th year. I have a Master's of Curriculum and Instruction from UCCS and currently working on my principal license.
And my name is Mark Bowers, and I am a social studies teacher. I have a bachelor's in history, and this is your 12th teaching, and prior Navy.
I'm Shanna Bigman. I have a bachelor's in geography and environmental studies and a master's in special education. I currently teach special education, and this is my 3rd year.
I'm Troy Bonewell. I have a degree in 23rd year teaching here in social studies. I have from Adams State University. I have a education BA in emphasis in social studies, a psychology minor, and a master's degree in administration.
Thank you guys for being here. I'm glad we have a wide array of years teaching. So just some things I want to put up front, some norms, expectations. Please keep your comments constructive and professional. Maintain focus on the topic, whatever we might be talking about, let's all stay within those parameters. And then any kind of deficits that get brought up or things that we don't like about PD, let's be solution oriented so that we have ideas moving forward on how we can always make this better. Okay, so what is the most powerful or impactful professional development activity that you guys have ever experienced?
So I'll go ahead and start with this one. I think for me, the most impactful one was our time through Better Lessons. We were able to meet bi-weekly with a coach, and this happened the entire course of the year. It was effective because we were able to consistently check in. We were able to say, hey, this is absolutely not me, and we kind of veered towards what we were doing in our class, and it wasn't scripted. So he literally listened to me, listened to what my needs were, and then gave me ideas to try in the classroom, and then we went back to reflect on them. So it was a consistent overtime process, which I think really helped my experience in it.
I'm going to kind of go off of that and say that Better Lessons was really big for me as well. Being a newer teacher, it was incredibly helpful to have someone kind of that was experienced, guiding specifically me through and going through being a special education teacher. There's a few different challenges than a regular classroom, and so it was really nice to have someone working with me one-on-one and giving me ideas that I wouldn't have thought of just out of lack of experience and not having done it before. So it was really beneficial to be able to try things, and if it doesn't work, then you grow from it and you move on and you add to it. So that was really, really big and really helpful.
I found that we did a project-based learning training session where, though we were kind of cross-curricular, we were actually able to, it was a smaller setting. We got different ideas from different people, and we were able to take what we learned right then and there and apply it into the classroom. This made the training just tenfold more important or more beneficial as opposed to the wait and see. I was actually able to get results and see how I can put it into play.
For me, it was we had a PD day where the teachers were actually giving us lessons on different techniques and skills that we could use in our classroom, and we got to choose 3 of however many they offered, and I found it really helpful that I found things that teachers were using in the classroom that built off the skills I was already using, and we could move forward from it. It was a smaller setting, and it was very practical, and they answered questions that was real for us in the classroom.
And do you feel like that one was more impactful because it came from people that you taught with?
Partially, yeah, and knowing them, respected them, knowing what they had done, and they were using these things and says, this is how we use it. And I just remember the math, Allie Earnshaft was given one on math and a target. She goes, this is all you're hitting and targeting. I said, we could use that for writing. And she says, yeah, that's exactly how we could, with it being there and knowing her, how she used it was helpful.
So, if you could name one thing out of everything that you guys just shared that was probably like the most powerful thing, like we just talked about how it was, someone is actually using it and applying it. Like of what you just told me, what would be, what was most powerful about that PD if you could pick one thing?
Reflection.
And why do you say that?
Because it gave me the opportunity to go back and actually look at how I implemented it, and then it gave me the ability to see, okay, well, here's how I can grow in it, and here's how we can build then on it. It wasn't just like a one and done, and in and out, and that was it.
Going off of that, I really appreciated that there wasn't the stress of this has to be perfect. Like we talked about it, and you're doing it, and this has to be perfect. It was very much so like things can happen. Let's try it. Like that feeling of knowing that you could fail or it could be like not exactly how it should have gone, and that was okay, and that you were going to have someone that was like supporting you and working through that was huge for me. Knowing that it's okay if things don't go well, but just how do we adjust from there? How do we move forward instead of just not reflecting and just being like, well, it didn't work, so we're just going to push it away. It was really beneficial just for like me as a teacher to know that it's okay to do that.
I'd probably say instant results, because I was able to take it right into the classroom and start utilizing it right then, and see the benefits of the actual training that we did, as opposed to a sit through the training, then not utilize it for 2 or 3 months, and then okay, now let's go use it, and I've pretty much forgotten everything that we did before.
Yeah, like big ideas, PDs are hard for me to digest. This is what we want to accomplish. Like in the end game, at the end of the year, you're like, okay, what am I doing tomorrow? So it's nice it's applicable. And then anything you wanted to add to yours?
Yeah, just the application of it. I really appreciate that. Since we were having teachers, I could say, well, this didn't work well. Maybe I can go to that teacher and ask them when they're in the building and get some insight on why this is working or something.
Yeah, nice that they're not not professional, but like big names. That
Yeah.
you can access those people easily.
I was able to attend the. I was able to be a part of the Better Lessons as well, and I truly like the fact that you were able to be personable with your trainer, whereas opposed to sometimes you have the trainers, they're not approachable, and if you are in the big setting, you have to stand in line if you want to go ask a question, or your question you may sit back and just sometimes hold it, somebody else asks your question. But the fact that you could be personal with a guy, and then they actually, I can remember my dude every day. He would ask me when I'd call him up. He'd say, "How's your weather?" Or we started with a what was it he called it? But it was like a positive. What's gone positive in your week? And it could be anything from how your kids are doing to hey, I won the lottery. However you want.
Okay, so at our school, how effective do you guys feel like our professional development opportunities are? The ones that you have been offered, the ones that you've taken specifically for our zone or for our school?
Well, I think our school has made a really conscious effort to push more towards effectiveness. I think in the beginning, especially with our current visible learning professional development, we know that the bigger ones were almost overwhelming in the sense that we didn't know what the expectations were. It was unclear. And now that we are making a concerted effort to have them each and every time we meet as a staff, so we talk about it. We're looking at it. We're looking at how we can improve on these different things. So I think it's getting better. And I don't know if it's always been that way, but I think definitely growing and trying to include it into everyday dialogue and looking at it when we do evaluations and we do post observations.
So do you feel like in the past it hasn't been
I think-
heavy on this is what we're doing?
My experience in this school, I think prior to this, was let's talk about it once and we expect that everybody's now on the same page. And that is clearly not how it works and shouldn't work. And so I think this has been a real effort by our administration team to include it often, even if we're trying to meet teachers where they're at instead of saying like everybody needs to be at this level right now. We're knowing that they have to get to a level at certain points.
I find, and I'm kind of on the same lines with Allie in that our effectiveness has gotten better in that we sort of have a purpose, or we have a meaning or a rhyme to the reason as to why we're doing the professional development. In the past, I felt like a lot of times our professional developments were, you would go there and go, okay, why are we doing this? And then there's no follow-up feedback or anything else. I can remember we used to have an RTI, and you had to bring your RTI folder to the professional development. And then we're like, you would bring the RTI folder, and you never did anything with it. And then, 2 days later, 3 months later, nobody brings them. And what was the purpose of doing that? Why go through the hoops if there's really no meaning for why we're doing it? I think we're doing a better job of doing that now.
Do you feel like you know the why behind this specific PD that we're implementing?
I feel like that we have a better understanding as to the why we're doing it as opposed to this, just, hey, we're going to do this.
I think specifically in my department, there's been some issues in terms of having everyone who teaches special education go to a specific training, regardless of if it's something that affects you or not. I think a lot of times there's like a big bubble placed around it to where there's such a big range between, significant needs children and moderate needs children or emotional children, stuff like that. But we're all sent to the same ones. And so that's where they feel less effective, to where it'll be a very broad topic that doesn't really relate to a lot of people. But I do think when they give us ones that are specifically for like a type of test we give or a program that we use, those ones are really beneficial because it's something that, across the district we use. And those ones are, better in the big group. But the ones that are just kind of like the broad topics, I feel haven't been as beneficial. But when they're about like a specific thing that we know we're going to be using, then they've been pretty good.
So like last year, how many professional development opportunities were very much not topics that you cared for or that didn't apply to you?
Basically any of them that were on actual PD days. They would give us like ones we had to go to where the rest of the departments would get like PLC time. Most of the time special education had to go to a different training, and those were like everyone in our zone, or it might have been district, went. And those always seemed really broad. It was the ones where it'd be like, hey, there's a bunch of different PDs today, you need to go to one but choose. Those were much better, but it was not very often that that would be the case. A lot of them were just like everyone's meeting and going over, whatever it may be. And even if it was something that did affect us all, they just didn't seem as beneficial as being able to like choose a specific thing that like, oh, this has been something that I've been struggling with and I really want to get some more insight on it. So I'm going to go to this. And we would also just be frustrated that it was happening during a time that we should be planning with our department. So maybe like the timing of them wasn't as effective either, because it was time that we could have been working on things. But yeah, they haven't done that this year, but last year they did that a lot, where it'd be PD days that make us go to a specific one.
And I kind of agree with you. Like this, I think I'm getting what you're saying is that in smaller chunks.
Mm-hmm.
So the big philosophical thing, all right, we're going to put this, and it's going to be in our building, and where most people lose interest in just the smaller chunks that we get that help us in the classroom or help us with certain ideas. And I personally like the ones that are the most effective is when you can bounce ideas off of the trainer. That works best. I think they're the most effective and work best for the school. And so we go out there and we apply these, and then we can come back and talk to them ourselves and say, hey, this is working, this isn't working. Do you remember what he said or she said? And we have the big ideas with all the groups. They're very, very ineffective to our school and our zone.
I find those ineffective too because a lot of times the trainers start off with showing an example, and their example is a third grade class with 12 kids. And I teach a freshman class with 80. So I'm like, okay, I don't think I can use this, so why am I here?
Another thing I've noticed of, when I leave a professional development, whether I feel like it was beneficial is if it was very like lecture styled. Most of the time I lose interest and I just, it's easy to like try to focus and then you like totally are thinking about something else. But again, when they put us into like smaller groups, even if it's not people I work with, but just people who are like in the field, it's way better where they give us a topic or give us a scenario and we can like sit and talk to each other and work through it and kind of give each other insight versus just sitting and listening to one person speak or watching a video or anything like that. I definitely like when they give us, the topic, the information we need, but then let us break out into small groups and actually like communicate with each other and get ideas from other people.
So, in District 49, or specifically in our zone, do you guys feel like you have adequate opportunities for professional development throughout the year? Or is there adequate time allotted? If it's not a PD day, do they still give you the time that you need? Or how do you feel about how our district or how our school kind of gives time for professional development?
I think they give a lot of opportunity for professional development, but not a lot of time for it. So I think there's like many trainings and many things you can go to, but there's not a lot of time that wouldn't be like taking a day off of work. Even if they do are obviously this is you don't have to take your own personal day for it, but it's still hard to miss a day of work being a teacher. Like it's stressful, so it'd be nice to have more days that are allotted to like, if you want to do PD, do it on this day. We have a bunch of classes offered, go. Or sometimes they'll be like on a weekend, which I know doesn't work for a lot of people, whether it be for like family or other jobs or stuff like that. So I think they're giving a lot of opportunity, but not a lot of time for that opportunity.
When I think too, I have the opportunity to be involved in different, clubs that have to deal with school culture. So I feel like because we kind of struggle with that, I have been given more opportunities probably in that, and trying to seek that professional development out with our kids here. But I think as far as content wise, I'm not sure that content wise specifically, no. We do a lot of practice professional development, but not necessarily how can I take this and apply it to my content unless that isn't allotted in that time.
And do you feel like those PDs that are specific to your content are most?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not even specific to our content, but specific in the sense of here's what you've now learned and here's how you can actually apply it tomorrow in your room, not, here is how I would teach World War II or, whatever it may be.
Can you turn the light?
I think there's a lot of opportunities that we have. I just think and we have, with the AHA network, that I feel like we do such a poor job of advertising and letting teachers know what's available, what's coming up. And I know some of that's our own responsibility. Hey, you need to take the time to go look and see what's coming up. But I think they could also turn around and it doesn't take much to say, hey, here's some of the opportunities that are coming up and available. Check them out so that you can, participate in them and utilize what's there and available.
And I often feel like we find out what is available after it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's talking about it and they're like, oh, that would have been so cool to go to. So maybe that's good feedback too, that we let them know. Could you send a weekly email out about what's coming up? Or over break, since you have some time, maybe look into these different professional developments.
Well, a lot of stuff on AHA is free, but sometimes I think when we look for professional developments, we get the high ticket ones. And so, obviously, our administration cannot financially support everybody's, endeavors in that. But I think there are a lot of opportunities our district provides us. Should we just go look?
I wish they would actually offer more content-specific professional development. And maybe even grade level. And I don't, and you look at the HAW network, sometimes it's a little overwhelming. You look at it like, oh my gosh, there's so much on this. But those things that you need to use in the classroom, and they don't. I don't know. It's hard to sift through the other stuff and trying to find it.
Or maybe we could have the person who kind of runs it come in and talk to us about how to filter it, or
That's a good idea.
hey, we are high school. Can you tell us specifically what?
Yeah.
That might be more beneficial. But I'll make a note of that.
Something else I've noticed is that a lot of times we'll bring up a concern or like, hey, a lot of us are struggling with this, like specifically in my department, and they'll be like, oh, that would be really great to have a training on that. And then like nothing ever happens or it never comes of it. So it seems like there's a lot of things that would be really beneficial trainings that aren't being done. And then there's other things that they keep offering that people have been like, this wasn't exactly the most beneficial for us, or it could have been better. And I just haven't seen a lot of adjustment to those comments, whether it be like changing current trainings that we do have or creating new ones that people have brought up. So I think that would be helpful to have more like input into what's being offered or how the current trainings could be adjusted.
And that is true. There's been things offered and people have said, hey, that would be a great training, and then just never had that follow up. And it's just, okay, that was just a conversation. Where did it go?
Or similarly,
Similar.
we do say there is a need, they do provide it, and then nobody went.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know what the reasoning was behind that. I mean, we just had one of those, that we said there's a need for this, professional development. So they brought somebody in for it, and I think of the staff that was there was maybe 15
Right.
total. So I think it's one of those, and we may not also have a culture of professional development because,
Right.
The scorned feelings from the past.
And it's hard too when they're only offered like once where it'd be like, and if it's during like a work day to where it's like our whole department cannot leave and
Right.
go to this. So we always have to pick like 1 or 2 people to go. But it's hard to relay all of that information. It's not the same as being able to get your whole department to go to something. So again, that kind of goes back to like when things are offered, because there definitely have been a few that I've been interested in going to, but they're like, well, 2 people from your department are going and you've had some experience in this, so we're going to send someone else. And it's like, oh, I really want to go. So.
I don't think we've done a really good job this year either of scheduling it in our school, because the opportunities and our timing on when it's scheduled is not very good. Like, why a professional development in May when we're going to be leaving that we won't touch again until August?
Is there a protocol, or do you know of the protocol if there was a professional development that you wanted to seek out? Do you fill out a form? Do you tell your administrator, your evaluator? Does anyone know of
I feel like I would just go to the office and ask who to ask about that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's like a specific way you're supposed to do it.
Have any of you guys asked to go to a professional development before that wasn't like offered during this workday?
I asked to go to a follow-up professional development, and they said no. So they allowed me to go to the first one, but then when I said, hey, can we go again? They were like, no, you've already been. So I'm like, can't we still get new ideas? Aren't there new and better ways and be able to, new techniques that are out there and can be learned? Or are we just supposed to say, okay, you're good and move on?
Or like events that have a lot of, because I know a lot of the professional developments that are like the bigger ones have like different classes you can go to, and we'll be like, well, I was able to go to 4 of the 10 that are offered. So if you're able to go back and take a different set, it's really beneficial. And I feel like a lot of times that's not understood, and it could be totally just they don't know that,
Right.
and we don't do a good job of explaining that. But I do think a lot of times it gets, I don't know, misconstrued that it's just the same thing over and over,
Right.
when really there's so many different things that you can be doing even if it is the same training twice, different classes, stuff like that.
Well, I think that falls into the debate too. Do you send 3 teachers to go get the bare minimum training, or do you send 1 teacher 3 times to go get a wealth of knowledge? How is that teacher, or is that person going to be now
But
responsible
I think
for
when
sharing?
I think though when you do that, if you send the one teacher to go get a wealth of knowledge, then that teacher is way more. They are way more of a benefit to the school than 3 that go get a portion of the knowledge. Because if I have a wealth of knowledge and I come back and I share it with everybody, then now everyone has that wealth of knowledge. Where if we water it down and only 3 people get some of it, and then they come back and never share it with anybody, then it's just a waste of money.
But I think I'd be worried that what if that one person quits? You invested all of this time and all of this money into one person, and maybe that's why they are very, I don't know if they're very strict, but like strict on who goes where.
Or maybe
do you
they're
think-
not excellent at sharing that
Yes.
with other educators.
I do think that's something that that's been an issue here, just something that hasn't followed up. Is a lot of times I hear about people going to professional developments, and I'm like, oh, that's really awesome, but there's not really an opportunity for them to share that information. There's not like a time set up for that, so it's just like, oh, you'll just share it with your peers. But I feel like there should be a time where it's like, oh, we are going to this meeting to learn everything you learned
Right.
at this training, and I feel like there hasn't been a lot of follow up with people that go to professional development or talking about it, or what did you learn, or
Yeah, like,
continuing
do I
to
just
work
come
on
up
it.
to you and say, guess what I learned in my PD?
Or,
Right.
It's
or
weird.
maybe even a priority to get that information out there. That's kind of
Right.
I think what you're
Yeah.
saying is that priority is like you go there and you have it, and it kind of falls on deaf ears. And you
Yeah.
I mean, we might get a couple people, but instead of saying, "Hey, we're going to use this as our trainer and go out there and do these things,"
Hey, yeah, we're going to send you this training. It's the expectation that you're going to come back and you're going to put on this training.
For the
you know,
staff, I was going to say, have
for
a
the
system
staff,
in place,
yeah.
like you must
Yeah.
present for 20 minutes and
Yeah.
follow. I don't
Because I
know.
do
Yeah,
feel like we
that's
get
a
that. I
great
checked
idea.
the box, I went, and then we
Yeah.
just move on, and
Right.
it doesn't get shared.
I would venture to guess that there are some people who won't ever go ask for training because they've it seems like sometimes it's always the same people that go. You know, oh, this training's coming up. Okay, well, we'll send. And you can even, it can be even your suggestion for the training, and then you turn around and they send somebody else.
Right. I do think there could be more, I guess, support coming from administration where we're just like asking people to like come up with ideas. You know what I mean? Because I don't think I've ever heard like, hey, go seek out a professional development and see what would be beneficial. Not that I feel like I'm going to be turned down, but I've just never been asked to do that. You know what I mean? So I just
so monetary. I would guess it's
Well,
a money thing.
it's
Let's
usually-
not
Right.
all pick a PD to
no,
go to.
but
Right.
but it's never been like a. You know what
Not
I mean?
even
It's
an
never
option.
been pushed, even if it's a free one. Like
Right.
never been pushed to be like, really go like find like go explore.
Right.
It's just kind of been like the same people do it, and it's just you know what I mean. I feel like it should be more of a like, yeah, definitely, like it's a great idea to go.
I feel like the only time I
look through
seek
things.
out opportunities is when my license is expiring and I need those hours. And I'm really, I'm actively, not that I'm not trying to learn, but then you really get into the AHA network and you're really looking at what can I do and how
Yeah.
much can I cram in.
When it does seem like it's dictated to us a lot too. So
Mhm.
if we are going to do this training and you're going to go to, where it was, Vail, and you're going to do this. Well, I'll go to Vail, but it's dictated to us instead of, maybe doing things that it's more beneficial.
Right.
Right.
When I think it's funny too, I think there's not this magic way to teach professional development because sometimes we're upset that it's not online when it could be, and then we're mad when they're in person. I think it's all a matter of your perception and kind of like how we see kids. Not everybody learns the same way, and so I think having choice in that, in how you learn it or in what you get to go to it would be important.
I do think that would be a big part. That would be beneficial for. It would be hard to do because I feel like a lot of people wouldn't go to anything, but I do think it would be beneficial to give us more of a choice of what you go to take like responsibility of what you think you know, or if you really feel like you're really solid on this and you could be using your time doing something else, like having the option of like not being in trouble if you don't go, or saying if you don't want to go to this, then this is also another option. But I do feel like a lot of times a lot of people are forced to go to things that just aren't beneficial for them, and they could be using their time for something else, and then they're frustrated.
Right.
Or, even if you need more clarification on this, come to this training, we're holding another one. Or just letting adults have more of a choice in what they go to and advancing their knowledge on things. I feel like have a lot more buy-in and make people feel more responsible for what they're learning instead of being forced to learn it.
Right.
Do you feel like administration is erring on the side of there are teachers who really need this and think they don't? So we are going to make, kind of everybody do it to cover the deficits of few. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just saying, do you ever feel like if you had choice, that people wouldn't take advantage of that? Or they pick the wrong
but I
things?
don't think that's why they're not doing that, though. I think it's always just been everyone goes, and that's the expectation, which is fine. But I do think there's a lot of times that time could be used more wisely for people who, you know what I mean?
Use
Like,
it, differently.
if someone's been here for 10 years and they've seen the same thing over and over, they might not need to go as much as the people who've been here for 3 years.
Right.
Something like that.
So in what area is professional development most beneficial?
I think it's most beneficial when we can take it and use it today, not in a year, not with this next magical curriculum. I think it has to be something that we can take and hold on to, and immediately you can see where you can put it into your practice.
I also think it's most beneficial where I'm able to use it during the professional development. Like, it's not something that I'm just like watching and like learning about when they actually make you do it or walk through it, whether it be like a new curriculum or a program or anything like that. And that might just be like my particular learning style, but I really like being able to like do it first in this like safe bubble environment before like being sent out to the wolves and like trying it with kids.
There's always unforeseen things that you see when you do it yourself. And you're like, oh, I'm doing the same thing the kids are doing wrong. And it's like, what is it? So what am I doing this for? And how do I make it better? And then so once you get that practice, and then the kids get to do it too.
Right.
So many times we try to do stuff, and then they tell us, well, you got to do this, and you have no idea what the unexpected turns are coming.
Yeah, and I think just the practice helps with just the confidence of being a teacher and going in there, and just knowing what to expect and not being afraid to try it because you were able to, work out the kinks like in the training versus like being, because I feel like a lot of times I'll have a training and it'll be a lot of information which can be super overwhelming, and then I almost don't even want to try it because I just don't really know how to even begin. So I think when you're able to work through it, you're like, okay, this is what we did. This is, what I need to do, and it takes away that fear kind of all this new information.
Do you guys feel like, our district spends a lot of money on professional development. Do you feel like you are held accountable for what you've learned?
Not at all.
Not even a little bit.
No, and I think
I think they do in
All right.
certain areas.
Yeah.
I mean, in
well, right
certain
now,
areas-
yeah, with our visible
I think
learning
visible
hours.
learning is the first thing I've noticed where it's like this is the expectation to have success criteria and learning intentions, but I think we're being held accountable for the most surface level of that.
Yeah.
Like, can you walk into your class and see that you've been, know
Right.
what visible learning is, but I don't think we're being held accountable of, are you working hard to actually use this, and are you like adjusting your teaching, and are you just writing success criteria on the board, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's more of like, does it look like you're doing it, or are you
Yeah.
actually doing it?
Were you going to say something?
Well, I think I've been here a long time, and we've seen the ups and downs of how it goes, and then they'll try to force it onto us. And it's changed over the years. It was nose and do's, and that was a big deal. It was like, you better put your nose and do's on there, and I was like, okay, and then all of a sudden it was objectives and learning intentions. And now, we've switched to the visible learning, where it's the deep transfer and surface, and I do think that they do a better job now than they have in the past, and especially with the learning intentions of IB, it was okay. I got them on there now. I'm going to ignore it.
Right.
So it was never held accountable for that.
I do think something that would be beneficial is I feel like a lot of the times, and it might just be my own thinking, but it's more of a lot of times we get forced to do it to where you feel like I have to do this, otherwise I'm going to get in trouble, instead of I have to do this because it's really going to benefit the kids.
Right.
And I feel like that gets missed a lot. So I think the way it can be approached can sometimes be different, to be like, hey, I noticed you're doing this, like, did it work? Like, trying to be very constructive and like helpful, instead of just like, you're not doing this, so you're not doing a good job. So I think that would be really beneficial in getting people to buy in to where they really know it's to help, the teaching and to help the kids, and not just because you have to do this, because this is what we're doing.
And maybe go back to what you were saying, the why behind, why do you post your success criteria on the board?
Right.
Even if the kids never looked at it, or did they look at it one day, or are you really implementing that in your lesson? It's not just a box to check.
Well, and I think another thing that would be that is most beneficial is when you have clear expectations. Your administration has said, like, hey, here's this professional development. Here's how we want you to use it in practice.
Mhm.
Here's what we want to see. Here's what we want. Like, here's what we expect, and and here's not necessarily repercussions, but yeah, here are repercussions if should you not do this.
Right. And I do feel like there has been like a good amount of that. I think I've been overall pretty lucky with like evaluators and stuff that have been like, hey, I noticed this happened, and that's happened to me before too, so maybe try this. This has been really successful for me. And I think that's huge in terms of like when you're trying something new, like visible learning, to be like, hey, notice this happened and it maybe wasn't the best, but like try this and it might be a lot better, instead of just being like, don't do that again. You know what I mean? So, but I do feel like that has been happening in terms of giving you the why, of saying like, this is why we're doing it, and this is maybe why it didn't work and how you can fix it.
So if you guys had to choose an idea for PD that would directly impact you, would you tell me that idea? And it doesn't have to be like, I want, since I'm math content, Algebra 1 ideas for small groups. Like, what kind of PD would you want to see in the future? One-on-one, small group, zone-wide, district-wide. Like, what would you want to see, just in general?
I would almost want to see a district-wide, content-driven PBL, and I say PBL loosely, truly like implementing like how can we integrate student-led and student-centered learning exploration like in our actual curriculum, not like techniques on how to get there, but like legitimately here's how to do it, here's how to implement, here's how to integrate.
I would really love to see, because one of the things that I think is big district-wide is co-teaching. And I think there's been a lot of things about co-teaching, but specifically what's affected me, I don't think there's been anything about how to co-teach with a special education teacher. You know what I mean? Where it's like there's always like a content in a special education. You're supposed to co-teach, but it's different than like two content people co-teaching. But I think there hasn't been like this is a good way to go about it, and it's just kind of been like figure it out. So I think that would be incredibly beneficial for both sides to know what am I supposed to be doing, and also, they're like, what is this person
How
supposed
we
to be
utilize
Because
that.
sometimes,
right, because there's a
awkward
purpose to
and-
people being in there, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of been like, here you go, have, you know what I mean?
Makes
So I
Here's a
think-
human, yeah.
Right, so that it's actually being used well. Another thing, this is just like my department specific, is a huge thing is that our district has an issue with is our IEPs being audited, but I've never had a training on how to have a compliant IEP ever. And so I think since it's such a big deal, right, since it's such a big deal, and it's different for each district, but like it is a statewide thing of like these are the boxes you have to check to be. So even just having like a broad, because I know it's different everywhere, but at least having like this is how to legally fit in that, I think that would be incredible for us. District wide, that could be like a district wide thing easily.
Content driven PD for everybody.
Yeah, for like special education. Yeah, not district wide for
Yeah,
all you guys,
yeah,
but
no,
like
I mean,
special
like
education.
social
Yeah.
I'd love to know how to write an IEP.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to add?